Okay, so I'm just gonna see if I can try and finish up this video. Okay. And this film, this is just a little, it's just like a whatever film. It was a film to prove to ourselves that we could do a film, but also to learn software. And we did raise money there's a film project I want to do, and I was raising money to do that. And in order to do that, like, you can't just jump into making that film. You have to learn certain things, and there were things that I wanted to learn. And so making this film was one of those things. It was a learning process, and I had originally done it to do things with Pastel Halloween, who's related to me. Um, However, she seems to be moving on to other things and stuff, so I don't know what she's doing. I know what I want to do and what direction I want to go in. We have similar direction and yet different directions. So it is what it is, and I can't just be like a helicopter mom or some dictator parent and or some stage mom and force her to do this and that. Like, that's just not the nature of my relationship with her. So I'm gonna edit this video, and I've actually learned so much since I first started it. I wanted it to be done and over with like at least half a year ago, but things constantly keep coming up. I will be here. Let me turn that down a bit. I will actually be. You know what? Maybe I'll put that back on. I will actually be filming tomorrow on a set tomorrow, and that is another one of those things that is dragging on way too long. I'm really not happy about the setbacks and the misfortunate aspects of that, but that's film. That's how it is, and it doesn't even matter whether it's indie film or professional films. I've also done videography this year, and I mean, there are pros and cons to everything, and that's life. C'est la vie. So, I just want to get this out of the way. It is like, it's just, it's always on my mind, and I have bad feelings about it if I don't get it done. I wanted to continue on with, I really wanted to go full in this year with like Arttober, not so much Arttober, but especially Inktober, as well as Drawtober. And I have a massive issue with cyber attacks from hackers, and this has been an ongoing thing for quite a number of years now. I I have no idea why it's me. Like, I'm not that special, and it's so frustrating and it's so draining, and I can't even tell you how tired I feel right now. And I have to get up, and I'm a DP, I'm a director of photography on this film tomorrow. So there are so many things on my mind. I just hope I can go to sleep tonight. I'm hoping that I don't get insomnia, because a lot of times when I have like big things or certain plans, even if they're not that big, I get struck with anxiety or insomnia or something like that. And it's funny because I can't even feel it or notice it until I have a very strong symptom. It's like I'm just mentally detached because I have had a constant onslaught of so many bad things and attacks to me for so long, and so many misfortunes and so many like broken promises, that I'm like very like shell shocked from so much of it. So I definitely have to deal with the repercussions. There's a type of hormone that's caused by stress, and there's severe stress. And right now I'm dealing with psoriasis. I have it mostly on my scalp at the moment, and that's the one that usually comes up the most. But also, like, I'm getting older. I have arthritis in my spine, and especially like my lower hip, but it's in my neck. And sometimes my feet bother me. I have a really bad foot, my right foot. Um, and as much as I love doing yoga, it doesn't solve everything when you're constantly getting like a lot of New England rain. I never wanted to live in New England. I don't really care for New England. I'm married to a person who won't leave the freaking place, and I constantly had to keep going back here. I many times wanted to get the hell out of here, and it always fails. And because I trust people, so I I have trust issues as well. So um, I just I just want to make art, and I feel like a lot of times people don't always understand me, and I'm constantly having to like explain myself or something, and I don't like it. But that's just how it is. Like that's like oh well. So whatever. I'm gonna get this done. All right. So here it is so far. I need to put on. I need to make sure that all this is consistent. I need to add text. Okay, let's see. So it's very rough. It's intentionally rough. It's just to prove that we could make a film, like a short.
Come out and play with us? Are you sure you
So some is
actually
animated by
want me
myself, and others are animated by her.
There's like a thunderstorm right now. So, it'll be fun. Come on. But like, you guys always ditch me. No, we don't. You're just too sensitive. Fine. So, what do you guys want to do? So, you're the oldest. What do you want to do? I wanna go home. Okay. We'll be right back. Every stinking time.
All right, so that actually has 4 tracks of audio on it, and I need to figure out how to make sure that that renders out. Like there's a 4, like it's not just stereo, but it's like 4, like it's like sort of like surround sound kind of thing. I need to figure out how to make sure that that renders out, and then I also need to add in like text and text scroll and stuff like that. So honestly, I probably should have opened Photoshop for that because I don't really like all the text. So for the titles in the beginning, I'm gonna use Photoshop, which needs to load right now. And then for over here, I need to add scrolling text. So it's been edited quite a bit. It's also based on actual life experiences. So I wrote the story with Pastel, and it's based on real interactions with real people who, ironically, are not real friends. Who you're just there for them, like something to do when they're bored, and then they just leave you. And it's actually based on real interactions with actual persons whom have lived around here, etc. And this style of like narrative storytelling is also very anticlimactic. It was kind of something I learned from one of my friends when I went to the Art Institute of Philadelphia in 1999, where everything that bugged us or people that annoyed us, we turned into cartoons and comics and stories and things. And he has many times actually been a creator or done a number of pitches for a number of major networks, including Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network that I know of for sure. But he's worked for pretty much any big name out in uh, Burbank, Hollywood area, and so on. So he's also, I think he's also worked up in New York. Now, there's a lot of animation studios. There were a lot more animation studios in New York back in the day. I do not know what is there now, unless it's gaming, maybe. Um, so there's that. He's also created a lot of comic books. I had some by him, and I don't know where they are. Uh, and then there's also like the furry aspect because furries sell, okay? People love to hate on furries, and I know I've been to conventions that were furry conventions. And when you go outside of the convention and you go to like a restaurant like Denny's or something, they are complete jerks to you. Everyone there are these nasty stereotypes that people have, and they're absolutely nasty and snide to people who are furries because they think you're some kind of like disgusting person. When actually, if you go to the conventions, everyone people have kids and there's just some disgusting stereotypes that's just like a tiny group of people did, and everyone else got smeared with that nastiness, with the disgustingness. And I have never done any of the weird, disgusting things that people think furries are and do. In fact, if you go to any furry convention, and I've been to at least two or three, I think, they all hate that people have this stereotype. And the weird thing is, a lot of people, including news outlets, keep repeating that this is a fact, that's what furries are and what they do, and never actually like look into it whatsoever. And then a whole generation of people who thought that because it was constantly being said on the internet that furries are this, this, and that therefore they must be, and then they got interested in it. So it's like life imitating art, imitating life, imitating art, or whatever. Like, and it's all fake. Even though there are now people who just become that because they think other people do that, when actually, like, that is just a tiny, like, weird perversion of people. Honestly, it's a very common thing in human culture and art to anthropomorphize or personify something, an object or an animal or whatever. So, there you go. All right. I think I'll just start with this black screen here. So, I know it's kind of a bit indulgent of perhaps my own screens, but I'm the producer, and I'm the producer to the director, and I also am an animator. I'm also the editor, which is kind of a thing that keeps happening on things that I work on. I usually end up being a lot of things. Being a producer means you have to do a lot of stuff. You have to wear lots of hats. And I definitely have sides of me that I'm not good at, that I don't care for doing. Like, I like to play with audio, and I like to do, audio design, but honestly, I don't like doing the boom. I don't like holding the boom. I don't like being audio person, and I was usually the audio person when I was a production assistant. I just try to do my job the best I could, and I did not really fully 100% understand it all, but that's what I would do. I was doing that, and apparently it was very appreciated for doing that. I'm also not a lighting director. I would love to be better at lighting. I need people that understand it better than me. So, a lot of times when it comes to lighting, because I value good lighting, I have to fidget and fiddle with it a lot. So I tend to be more natural light. I like sunlight a lot more. But I've also been practicing with photography with low level light, including prime lenses. And I know a lot of people who do films don't know that much about lenses. I have spent over a year, almost two, just learning lenses and exposure and, low level light and things, like just really working on that. And a lot of this, I know people, there are people who do like people in my close circle of friends who are more animators or more people or people who do comic book art, cartoon type stuff, and they didn't understand like the value of photography, especially when I first was really getting into it. And I gotta tell you, it really does help all aspects of animation to understand how photography works, how lenses work, especially especially since the graphics I'm using in this, a lot of it is After Effects, like just certain things. Now they're very simple. The whole thing is of this was just simple, minimal, rough, whatever. So for example, like these graphics here are motion graphics animation. Now they are technically animation. I don't like to call them animation, but they are. I prefer to refer to this as motion graphics because my background is traditional animation. However, being a traditional animator, I'm kind of a naughty animator recently, and I've been using like a lot of cheater tricks and hacks and things. So, no, in traditional animation, even like the higher end, they do actually still use tricks like walk cycles or cycle animation or held cells and things like that. So I also usually prefer to animate in ones and twos, and there are some of these scenes that I just animated in ones, and others that I forced it to be twos the whole way. um, I just enjoy animating and I enjoy drawing. I would like to have a more focused and disciplined study of anatomy and especially life drawing, but just trying to get there to do that is such a freaking struggle. Like, because of money. All of my money at the moment went into the software that I have at the moment, and it's temporary. So I have these certain softwares until the subscription runs out. So I buy in bulk in a year. However, I did work out a deal with Toon Boom. So I have Toon Boom, and that is a permanent license. I have the Essentials version, and the cost is so high, and it killed me. But they brokered a deal with me for that, so I got a better price than the price on the website. Um, I have tested out a lot of software, and I want animation software to be as close to doing traditional animation with paper and pencil as possible. And I know that people who have money or are still in middle class or who have a nice cushy situation are very snide about software. Software doesn't necessarily mean everything, but you still have to learn the software. I like Toon Boom because it's so easy. It's just so intuitive, and I can just start drawing, and it's easy to figure out. It's very user friendly. I'm sure it does a lot of things that I don't even know what it does. And I originally tested the advanced version, which I actually wish I had, but I don't. And then for Adobe, I have a whole Creative Cloud. The reason I have Creative Cloud, honestly, I have older versions of Photoshop, so I don't need the new Photoshop. Yes, it is better and it does more things, but I don't necessarily love it better. So I didn't really need Photoshop per se, like the new ones. But what I needed was Adobe Premiere, whether I'm doing video or whether I'm doing animation, and I needed After Effects. So you could do the option where you just buy one or you just pay for one program. And so I thought, okay, well, I only need Premiere and After Effects, but they are so expensive that the cost of just those two for a year subscription, it costs more than the entire Creative Cloud. So I invested in Creator Cloud. They gave me a few deals as well over the years, since 2016. Or actually, no, since 2017, because I was using it off and on. I almost got this awesome deal in 2016 Cyber Monday that was $25 for a whole freaking year. And my spouse had a hissy fit and wouldn't let me. So, yeah, there's times where, lucky situations come along, unfortunate situations come along, and I've learned to appreciate those and be an opportunist and nab those up and be completely grateful for whatever occurs. But then I've also been fraught with a lot of misfortune as well. So there are times when the misfortune is so much greater than the fortunate side of things. So I'm gonna be just streaming this for as long as I can. until either, okay, so Photoshop is loaded, until either my RAM runs out or I get cyber attacked, which has happened so many times while I'm streaming. I don't feel like setting up my camera. I would like to do it sounds easier to actually do Inktober or Drawtober right now. You just set up the camera, you plug it in, you set up the lights, and da da da. But I have a camera crane, and I also have a tripod, a video tripod, which is different than a regular tripod. And these, it just takes a bit of time to get it right and get it set up and situated and whatever. And you go through all the trouble of doing that, and then next thing you know, I get like this weird cyber attacks, and it's just like so draining, and it's so draining. Another thing that's very draining is the virus scan. Like you finally kick out kick out the malware or whatever, and I think they keep coming in through my Chrome browser, which is off right now. And then now the video card is overheated, and now I can't run anything. Like it won't, because the video card will veto. If it's too hot, it'll just veto a graphic program. So that was another issue I had in the summer. I couldn't run certain programs if it was too, like, once it hits 80 degrees and above that, a lot of graphic programs won't even open. It just won't. And I don't use air conditioners because I can't afford it. So there was that. And there was we had a huge heat wave this year. We haven't really had a heat wave since 2012, and we had a lot of them this summer. It was so much. I was just shocked. I was really shocked. It was like a really cold June, and then as we got to like the second to third week of July, it just got hot and it never went away. So it hadn't been that hot since 2012. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to doing these. So this is for the brand I was supposed to be doing with Pastel. Honestly, I don't know if anything's gonna really become of this brand, because it's one thing when someone's very enthusiastic to do something with you and you're really going somewhere, but if I have to constantly come at them and get them to do stuff, it's just indicative that they're just not really on the same wavelength as myself or in alignment with me. So I'm just kind of doing this to do it, and just let her do whatever she wants to do, because like I'm not a helicopter mom. So okay. Anyway, did that work? Alright, so that's probably a RAM issue right there. Okay, so I'm gonna probably keep it like that. Alright, I'm gonna check the spelling because I'm not sure. Alright, that's correct. Yeah, it is. It is correct. I can't spell. Alright. So apply. Let me think. Does that look like a decent font to you or whatever? This is kind of one of those graphical choice things. No. I didn't want to avoid that. So I go with green quite a lot. No, you know what? I should probably go with, how about a grayish? Maybe. No, because it needs to stand out. No, actually, I'm not sure. So one of my friends was teaching like media type stuff and at Yale, and he insisted that titles should kind of stay white or black. But with this color here, I need to make sure that it's standing out a bit. He also said keep it sans serif, but this is like a logo though, so all right. What should I go with? You know what? Let me save this as a different file. File, save as. Of course, the RAM is tired. All right. So I've been watching. I've been watching this show called Man in a High Castle. I'm in season 2 right now, and there's a new season apparently. So I just got into it. I apparently have had Amazon Prime for quite a while, and I hadn't realized it until like I had an issue with a CD not showing up that I bought in May, and I had a customer service thing. They have a variety of customer service types. It seems to have cycled through, and it's a little different now. I kind of liked the customer service a few months ago, but whatever. Like it's okay. It's not terrible. Let's change this. Okay, so let's call this. Well, here I should probably go in here then. Titanic, panoramic, and this would be text. So let's save that like so. Oh crap! Is this saving it as a PSD? Okay. All right. Let's. Okay, what color? What color is this? Sort of like a bluer tone. All right, so I'm gonna just fill this in here. I see they just one of the things I get really annoyed about the newer Adobe stuff is that they rearranged the windows and stuff at any given time without my permission. It drives me freaking crazy, and I don't especially after I've spent like a few months customizing things and liking how it's going. Where's my paint bucket? I don't paint bucket, where are you? Here you go. All right. How about this one? Let's see. So that's very light. It's difficult to see. Is that similar to that color? I would say so. Somewhat. So I want this to stand out. So I'm going to do. Let's try this. I'm gonna go to my go-to stuff. So we have contour. They have new options in these things. So this is like so bevel and emboss. What's this? Contour. Oh, well that's interesting. Texture? No, let's not do that. Okay, let's go here. Opacity. Okay. Depth. Ooh, that's interesting. Alright, I also like to use a drop shadow. I'm just going to the things that are like my go-to, like my normal things. I generally just tend to stick with what works for me. So let's see. Alright, so since in this, see, lighting is actually kind of all over the place. So this is lit. Light source, we have a moon actually right here. I don't know if you can see that. There's a moon. But then light actually seems to be coming from down here as well. So it's sort of ambient as well. So you have multiple light sources there. That's motion graphics for you. So I guess it's probably not a good idea to overthink this at all. I'm going to change this color. I don't want it to be black. I like to try and stay away from too much true black and true white working within RGB, but I also do something similar with paints, pigments, or pastel. If I'm doing charcoal, it's going to be black and white, but I like to have a mid-tone as well. Let's see. I'm going to go with a kind of more red. That's not red enough. A bit. No. How about down here? Okay. Let's see. Oh, what is the speed? There's a speed thingy. Oh, I kind of like that actually. This is new to me. I've never seen this setting before. Size. And then I'll go to outer glow. So outer glow. Interesting. There's different ways I can go about this actually. Why do I have noise on there? That's strange. Okay. Spread. There we go. And honestly, let's see. Let's take off screen and go to normal. Now we'll have some like little bit of a 90s vibe, I guess. And hold on a second. Let's do no. Oh, I see. What happened here? Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna actually copy layer style, and then I'm going to add this layer, and I'm going to collapse these. Let's see. Maybe it's in here. Merge layers. Okay, and then I'm going to paste the layer style. See how that looks. Okay, I'm going to take off that. See how that worked? Yeah, I think I'll stick with that. I think that works. Okay, so basic, simple stuff. Alright, and then I will collapse that together, so merge layers, and there it is. Alright, turn that off. Oh, that is very see-through, isn't that? That's okay. Da, 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 da. I should have upped the opacity on that a bit. All right. Oh, no, not layers. Texts. No, titles. That's what it is. Titles. All right. Okay. All right. I guess I can pull that in now. Saved. All right. Let's pull this in. If it wants to load. So it's Saturday, and I guess Pastel is very popular today. So she's got a lot of people chatting with her, and she's really vocal right now. I would like to import the thing. Okay, file, import. Alright, so individual layers. Yeah, I just want that. Hopefully it'll just bring in that. And now we will like motion graphic this. So okay, why is the black showing? Hold on, what the heck is going on here? Does that work right? No, see, that's working, right? Alright. Alright, so I want to have this thing move around, actually. This would actually be a lot better done in After Effects, but I don't think it can handle the RAM. I don't think it could handle both these programs open at the same time on this computer plus streaming. So I would like to keep my graphics card, my video card. So all right, where do I want this to kind of come in? Alright, so I'm gonna move this. Alright, let's go to effects control, or I'm gonna go to effects control. Effects control, please. There we go. And position. Alright. And then let's pull this over here. Would you please work? That would be great. Alright. Alright, so I'm going to set the clock. And let's move it. Let's move it up here, I guess. Let's go right about here and move it. Okay. I would actually like to ease this in, but I forgot the key for it at the moment. Let's do opacity, because I kind of want this to fade in. I'll listen to her go. I think they're just messing with her, they're not, I don't think they're that dumb. I think they're just playing dumb. Alright. And then I think I will go with, so, scale. Let's do scale. She's like, you're so dumb. I really don't think they're that dumb. I think they just want attention. And, alright, and then we go to mine. So I'm gonna go to my graphics, and I want, so this is like my brand kind of thing. Uh, Originally I didn't really want this to be on my brand. I wanted to have a brand with Pastel. But she's kind of going off doing her own thing. She's sort of not orthodox. But I'm not exactly orthodox in all aspects myself. I do tend to have some conservativeness in some things, even though I'm a leftist. So there's that. All right. So, all right. Let's render those effects in and out, I guess. And let's move on to my text. So what color, there we go. I will say that the character development is a lot of input from Pastel, and I will also say that she did the character designs. She was so good at them that I just let her design them. She did the model sheets. She did slack on them though, but she did do them. Her style had progressed a lot within a year since she first designed them, and everything she was hollering at me, she was saying that I was overdoing things and I should just keep it simple and just like whatever. She completely went 180 and started like doing more and pushing herself further and expanding and growing as an animator and as an artist. So you can't just make people do something that they don't want to do, and I just feel like that's wrong and like oppressive, and I'm not going to do that. Ironically, like if my parents had been artists, like because they don't have creativity, they do, it's in them, and both of my biological brothers as well. I would have loved to have family members that were artists and did artist things. They are very creative in other ways that they don't see it as art even though it is, but they just didn't. Um, and the fact that I'm an artist sprung straight out of the fact that they did creative things when I was little. Um, I kind of pretty much envy people who can do stuff with like their mother or their father or their brother or sister or whatever because I don't have that. Let's see. Let's do a new one. All right. So again, I like to try and stay away from true black. That probably looks black on this because of the color in the background here. It's not. It's actually a very dark purple. I don't know if you can see. See that? It's color theory. So I like to use color theory with everything. Lighting theory, reflection theory, highlighting theory, shading theory. I use all these theories. And I know some people hate like the airbrushed look or the refined look. Um, I like things to within certain degree. However, I can get bored with things looking too realistic that I might go with a more expressionist type thing at a time. I tend to like things that are stylized. So, all right, let's see. Let's save as. All right, so yeah, whatever. Okay. And I will. So I'm going to hold shift and bring this out. I think you can probably see the purpley tones slightly, maybe. I don't know if it's showing on the feed. I I might actually bring in, so by the time I get to here, because I'm also the director and the producer here, by the time I get to like here, I might actually bring in my Chinese stamp because so this is a real one here. This one actually is my real Chinese name. My name is a real name. It's not some like words I just slapped together. That you can't do that. That's rude. That's disrespectful. There are rules to names. I know some people will go, oh well, the cultural revolution destroyed that. That is not true at all. I couldn't just have any name I wanted. I could, however, use Dao to come to a name within line with what I wanted, which is what happened. And it took like a year and a half to get this name. So this is my name. I also, because my logo, my fursona, my brand is Black Unigriffin. So in Chinese, I don't like the word that they use to translate griffin. They translate griffin as vulture, and I will not use this term. I do not like the word vulture to associate with a griffin. I don't like this whatsoever. However, certain kinds of beasts, like magical beasts and mythical beasts, there are terms for these, and there are ugly ones and there are beautiful ones. So I like the term from mythology, where it's more like divine, even though like I'm not divine at all. I'm actually agnostic. Um, it's so funny and so amusing actually. But uh, there's a kind of mystical, mythical, like divine beast category, and it's called shensho. And so I use the word show because it's not just like a brutish like animal out in the wilderness, even though I like animals. Like it doesn't have like this vulgarness to it. It has like a divine or beautifulness, like what wisdom or lucky or auspicious kind of thing. I've read a lot of Chinese ghost stories, so I use the term that I cultivated it myself. Is called 物独角兽. Not, I don't use, so I specifically use the word 物 instead of 黑. 黑, if you're gonna say black in Chinese, you would almost entirely say 黑. But if you use the word 物, 物 means like, it means black, only not specifically a color black. Like just 物 is just generic and black and whatever. Whereas 物 has more like, there's more to it. It can mean dark, it can mean black, but it's like it's almost like, it's more like rhetorical, it's more like poetic. And so I translate Black Unigriffin to 物独角兽, which actually 独角兽 means unicorn. So it's a correct translation, but I don't use the term that they use for griffin because you have to understand the words and the wording. When I was younger, I used to use black unicorn for a lot of things, but it's too common, and I wanted to distinguish myself from other artists and other people just using the same stupid screen names and stuff and avatars and things. And then I kind of originally wanted to be dark Unigriffin. But there was, back at the Bush era, there was a very popular artist who I really like her work, and I've even met and bought things from her at conventions. And she goes by the alias Dark Natasha, and I just didn't want to be a ripoff of her. I wanted to be me. So I grabbed the word black, and because of black unicorn, and it just became Black Unigriffin, and it means a lot. There's a lot of symbolism and metaphor, and if you read into not just Chinese culture, but I mean, of course, Chinese culture. So you have like Eastern, you have stuff from India, like Buddhist kind of things, and then you have like in China, you have Taoism and blah blah blah, and that's kind of like where you have like black and white, and there's like a mixture, like the yin and yang are like one is part of the other, and they cycle and they flow, and good isn't really good and bad isn't really bad, and light and dark have no real good or bad. They're just forces, and they're things that move around. But then even like going back to color theory, like as you can see this griffin here, you can see a lot of colors because it's kind of like, okay, so the pigment of black, the black pigment is absorbing is the presence of all color. You are seeing all color. However, when you get into light, there's a different theory. So you have white light. When you take a prism, you can break up white light into all colors. And so when you're looking at black, even though you're seeing all colors, you're actually not seeing any white light, so you're not seeing all colors. So you are, but you aren't. So it goes back to yin and yang again. And then a lot of times I have depicted, it was kind of a thing at the time where people would have a ball, like an eagle claw ball with a crystal ball and certain other things. But even in Chinese culture, and I lived in China like a number of times, certain shinshou would have like a kind of a pearl. I think it's called like a zhong or something like that. And it's a symbolic thing, like dragons usually have it. I love dragons as well. Oh my god, I love dragons. I just did it a little bit like that when I first did my graphics, and I just like forgot that I just whatever. But when people did fan art of my character or my persona or whatever, or art trades with me, which I don't do anymore for a lot of reasons, they would always depict my persona with a pearl, with a big ball like that. So right now I'm just sort of keeping this graphic the way it is. And yeah. Anyway, tangent a lot, I know, but there's a lot of thought and meaning into these things. They're not just pretty pictures. They're not just beautiful images. Like when I go to make an image or a piece of art, it can be either about mood and feeling, or it can be about some thoughtfulness. And sometimes I'll go more thoughtful, and other times I'll go more feeling. And I don't definitively think one is better than the other, because you can do one or the other. Sometimes you might want to do one instead of the other, or you can do both. That's just how I roll. So, okay, let's pull this in. I kind of wish my friend George was watching the stream right now, but George is kind of off doing his own thing as an artist as well, and he'd probably be chatting off my ear right now, so that's okay. I think I'm probably just going to keep this the way that this is, so, and now let's turn that off, and I will pull that in, actually. Alright, let me make sure that I've definitely saved this for sure. Okay, file, import, let's see. Why did I put it in that folder? I don't know, because my brain is like scattered. And of course, alright, let's see, import the files. It's supposed to be individual layers, but whatever. Alright, is this going to let me pull it down if I hold shift? Alright, good. Good. So you can probably barely even see that that's text. That's the true black right there. And then, here, let's see. Okay. So I also like art history. I also like, what else? I like art history. If you study art history and even like literature, art history itself is literally, pun intended, literal, literally, literally the study of religion. Like you cannot escape it. If you have certain like beliefs or whatever, I suggest you do not ever study those things, and do not ever study the origins of art and human culture and anthropology. Like, just, it's not gonna be something you can handle, because you will learn about things you didn't want to know about, and it will, I don't know how to say this, it will test your faith or break your faith, and if that's not what you want, I say don't do that. I used to be like more like, I don't want to say gung-ho. I used to be more like, because I don't consider myself a firebrand whatsoever. A lot of times those guys are such jerks. Except for whatever reason, when there's a natural disaster like hurricanes and just any kind of natural disaster, they're off volunteering to help people. But one thing I absolutely did like about studying these things, which I don't think is going to bother anyone for me to mention this, is that studying especially Greek literature, ancient Greek literature, and that, but even like Sumerian type epics like Gilgamesh. If you're religious, don't read that. Okay, just so you know, you don't want to know. I read a lot of religious texts, a lot. I read the entire Bible in more than 14 translations, and I was checking. I started in 2014 and I ended in about 2016 before I went to UMass. And I'm telling you, you don't want to know what's in it. You do not want to know what's in there. If you have a faith, you don't want to know what it says. You don't ever want to read it. I have read it, and I know why certain people lose beliefs and stuff. It's because they read it, and I'm just saying, don't read those things. You just have to blindly believe what people tell you if you have faith. So it's unfortunately a fact, and I don't want to hurt anybody. So I was going to UMass as majoring in philosophy originally. I download and read, and I do a lot of philosophy. I have always been into philosophy without even realizing that I was. So philosophy is a thing with me. It's not going to go away. It's always going to be there, and I'm not sorry about it at all. Some people really don't like that about me. And another thing that people will say a lot of times is that they think that philosophy is difficult or hard. And I'm telling you right now, when I have conversations with people, and I'm just talking about the Socratic method and Socrates, who invented philosophy, and I just talk about just the Socratic method. And I also use what's called the Feynman technique, which is just breaking down complex things into the basic, simple parts. They all realize, oh my God, I really like philosophy. Philosophy is so useful. But if you have a specific stance, like there's things called like a bias, there's other things that you could call a blind spot or narrow-mindedness or myopathy, which is sort of like a nearsightedness, like figuratively speaking or metaphorically speaking. And you won't like that. You will feel very attacked or oppressed, or it will bother you. It's another thing is very funny how many people who like, for example, things like they like the Matrix, and they will claim that they have read Socrates, or not Socrates, Plato's books about Socrates. The two books that I have read of Plato are the one about Socrates, who was his teacher, and the one called The Republic. It just actually, oddly, the translations of that are probably not the best. I've read so many of the apology of, or the defense of, or however you want to translate it, the defense of, or the apologia of Socrates is so beautifully done. That so many translations are so beautiful and so good. I can always tell when I read certain texts from ancient time, like who had a Greek education, because there's a certain way that they use words, whether it's science, rhetoric, policy or politics, or cultural things, arts, theater, drama. There's certain poetry, there's certain ways that they do things that's so good that they so honed this stuff that I can, like, for example, if I read like biblical texts, I can tell which ones, who the authors of each one had that Greek education. Like one that's absolutely so beautiful, despite how weird the story is a book called Job. And it's so beautiful in some parts. The way that they put the words together, the way that they do it like line for line, it's like prose and things, right? It's so good. But then it does like this weird Deus Ex Machina thing towards the end that I'm like, why did you do that? Whatever. But it had an agenda. I think actually the Book of Job was probably created originally as a play or a drama, which is why it's written a specific way. And if you'd studied ancient Greek anything, especially dramas, plays, epics, if you've read the Iliad and the Odyssey, that's Homer, you can see that. You can also see like how they use symbolism, and people resonate with this stuff very well. Like, it is universal, a lot of the ways that they hone stuff. I mean, there tends to be things like in a more Eastern way or a more Western way or a Near Eastern way. But people generally resonate with this stuff across the board. And that's why these things still continue to this day, the way that you evoke emotion. Greeks also honed what like modern music today is based on a lot of stuff in like Pythagorean's use of he had a mathematical study of music, or proper music, and classical music is actually based a lot on that. I used to play violin. I regret that I stopped. I very much regret that I stopped doing that. So in philosophy, if you're, or what became academia, because philosophers, especially Plato, but also Aristotle, they actually created the very first institutions. And I'm very pro education, um, but establishments can fall apart or become corrupt or whatever. And that's why, like, for example, like, so there's East and there's West, and I tend to refer to things like Lao Tzu, Sun Tzu, all these other guys. I don't refer to them as philosophers because they don't use logic and reason or the Socratic method. They have a different thought. I call it Eastern thought. That's why I refer to them as Eastern thought. However, it's very popular with philosophers. Um, I very much enjoyed doing philosophy. I can't read very fast. I have like a handicap. So, all right. And so I can't read very fast. Let's do a let's do a render in and out effects render. I forget which one it is. It's one of these. There we go. Render. Ah, and I just couldn't keep up. I liked the teachers, I liked the instructors, I liked the professors, and I also really liked the kids, the students, the young people. So many people that are my age or older have this weird disdain for young people and millennials, and I think it is so misplaced. So I feel like, especially like Bush era millennials, which are now like in their 30s, they had a lot of behaviors that were usually I think what they think of in their mind because they're so stuck in the past. Okay, here, watch this. Watch old people, especially. Okay, people who are, by old, I would say people who are at least like 35 and older, if not 40 and older. So we are literally in climate change, and every year the weather is just so fucking weird and crazy. It's just bizarre, and it's like they have this amnesia. Like they're still stuck in the 20th century when, had normal climate. And they'll be like, whoa, the weather's so weird. And they say it every week and every month and every year like it never happened. Right? But a lot of the young people who have grown up, there's like a few newer waves of millennials. You have the first wave, which has learned their lessons since then. A lot of because you had like these really bad role models like the Paris Hiltons and this reality TV crap, and then they grew up and realized people aren't really like that, and that's fake, and that's TV. You know, a lot of millennials, first wave millennials, helped with Gen X to pioneer the internet, things like YouTube, MySpace, Facebook, and whatever. And some of them got very, attached to these things. That's kind of the problem. So if you look into things like brain elasticity, a lot of times when people get older, and it's a difference in chemistry in most males and most females, but like not necessarily, where people become rigid and stuck in set in a certain way, and have trouble being challenged. Another thing is people who have good things going on in their life. They don't always necessarily credit all the people who helped them or the system or the things that did, and then they'll say things like they're a self-made man or whatever, when actually they didn't make it on their own. They had someone supporting them, or they got a grant from the government or whatever it was, and they think because they're successful in their mind that they're never wrong, and their whole worldview is how it is because this is how it worked for me and I deserve this, when actually there could have been a lot of other factors, and you were just lucky and you capitalized on that opportunity. I can tell you so many instances of where people who deserved certain things didn't get them, and the persons who did not deserve them got them over and over again. And I think the safest thing for you to do is, if you want to save yourself a lot of depression and a lot of stress, is to question a lot of things. I think at first it's gonna be disheartening and hurt your feelings a lot, because when you start to see things as they actually are, it hurts, and it can make you really mad. If unfortunately, if you're kind of in a mindset of everything must be forced to be positive, there comes a point where you can't feel happy because you can't force yourself to feel happy. That you have to mourn or grieve or feel sad or angry, and you have to let it out. And that's not actually being negative; it's being human. So, all right. So this one here. So this one is more of like the dark text. All right. So let me actually see if I can set this to. What is it called again? I always get confused with blending options and. Hold on. Am I on the wrong thing now? Oh, it's probably here, isn't it? Here we go. Blend mode. They're called different things in different programs, and they've changed over the years. So I'm going to go to multiply. I just think that's better. So your brain thinks you're seeing black, but you're not. I love that. I love color theory. Like, your brain thinks you're seeing white clouds, but it's actually not white, and you think you're seeing a lot of things, and you're not really. It's all theory. And there are people out there who will go, "That's just a theory. It's not real." Did you know that if you study music, you have to literally study music theory? Oh, music isn't real because it's just a theory. Yes, it's called an applied theory. Just like color theory. There's actually more than one. I think most people use Newtonian, or the color theory from Isaac Newton. But I feel that Goethe had a better one. And then I had to re-understand color theory for RGB. Then there's also CMYK. And when I worked at Top Cow, I had to do things keeping that in mind. So for example, when you're making like a color here, ironically, I don't know why they don't make the pages, like, because you had to do the coloring. When they would make the colors, they didn't do it in CMYK, they did it in RGB, but they would still print it out in CMYK, which is pretty much the only thing you can do, even though I've used printers at UMass that said they're RGB, which, unless it's a Fuji printer, a Fuji print, that doesn't make any sense. But you can, okay, so you can see this, this triangle with this dot thingy here. That means it won't print out the same color on CMYK. There's a lot of things, differences in certain things that you either you should be taught them or you'll catch on to them over the years. So the human eye can actually see a lot more colors and pigments and pigmentation than a computer or a machine for the moment. Okay. When you're looking at a screen, you're looking at pixels and you're looking at RGB. So you're actually looking at light, and when you're painting digitally, you're painting with light. But when you're doing like CMYK, which is for print, so you're printing stuff out with inks, CMYK stands for the colors in those inks, the specific colors. And so an image, if you're doing it in RGB, when you print it out, it won't look the same. It'll only be able to print out within that color range. So if you switch it to CMYK, it'll do it in the printing color range. And it's different. It does look different. And also if you convert one to the other, you lose certain colors. However, when you're using like paints and pastels, if you're making a picture with pastel or paints, you're using pigments. You're using more pigments than just CMYK. So it's much closer to how the human eye actually sees things. The sad thing is when you go to photograph them, you can only photograph a certain range of color because these machines can only see certain colors. Then you get into things like how the components of camera work, because it's not just, I mean, they have megapixels now, and they have things like exposure. There are so many different settings in a camera, okay? And there are people who, like, I used to be in this camp too, like, where people would think that, you take a photograph and it would be like ghosts and spirits and things. And I know what those are now. I can look at it and see what is what. So for me to see a photograph of strange phenomena, or a phenomenon, so singular phenomenon, plural phenomena, um, it can't be those certain things. It has to be really compelling. And so it's like one of my friends used to talk about separating signal from noise. We're also at the point where it's very easy to fake things. It's very easy to fake things now. So um, I'm open minded a lot, but I'm also skeptical too. I think you need to be both. And that's where I always come back to the yin yang, where you can be this and that, but it's like a mix of both. But then there's also like you can't just be stagnantly neutral because then nothing happens, or you're enabling bad things to happen. So, all right. I'm gonna try and stick with the same font for these. All right. But I'm gonna add my, if I can find it, I'll probably add my, you know what? I don't feel like hunting around for it. I'll just pull it off my DeviantArt if it loads or not. Whatever. All right, let's make that graphic. I probably will change these colors. Are you gonna delete or what? Hello? It must be in the middle of a process. What's running? Are you kidding? Alright, well that's fine. Can we do this? There's a lag happening. Alright. I want to make sure that that's spelled right. I can't spell. Alright. Let's make sure. Let's make sure that's spelled right. Okay, that's correct. Well, when in doubt, check. Alright, I'm going to go back with this kind of light gray again. And I'll make this black. Or whatever. No, let's just go straight up black. So I know I usually try to stay away from true black and true white, but I do have actually black here. I just wanted it to contrast a bit more because it says like a blur in it, and I use it a lot. I use a lot of blurs. It was a technique I got a pack of all these instructional things from Chaz Riggs, who was the kind of like the producer at Top Cow Incorporated of Image Comics, and he gave me like a whole pack of these things. And A lot of the techniques that they taught, I really applied, and I've come up with my own since then. So I just use there are reasons, like if I'm gonna use black or I'm gonna use white, there's a reason for it. I still try to stay away from true blacks and true whites a lot for as much as I can. So when I do use it, it has the real blackness or the real whiteness to it. I like to stay away from it, the truest black and white as much as possible though. So let's see. I'm not sure if I should go. Should I go with the Chinese text or no? I don't know because she doesn't have any Chinese text. Uh, is it overdue? Well, I can use at least use that maybe. Should I? Actually, I'm not sure. I'm rethinking it. Maybe not. Maybe not. Well, since all the other files are in this folder, I guess I'll just put it in here. They incorporate a lot of like self-help type stuff or whatever, which I mean, I'm not gonna knock it. It's fine. Um, and it kind of pushed me to really reevaluate certain things. However, I'm just not new age anymore, and it's not, it's become like dogmatic, and it's become like a cult or various cults, and there's just as many immature things that that we all escaped to get away from, and then all ended up being the same thing. There you go. That's Dao De Jing right there. Um, so I just I I just I'm there are certain things flaws with human beings, and I just sometimes feel like human beings just cannot evolve, and I don't know. I don't know what to do about it, what to think about it. Uh, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. That, and then there's things like sociopaths, psychopaths, and narcissists, and you're gonna have to come across them a lot in life because, and I mean Shane Dawson just did a whole film about it. So, all right, how do I want this to come in, kind of thing. All right. I don't need to scale this, do I? No. Let's. Maybe I do. Or maybe I don't. Let's see how that looks. All right, let's see if we can set this to something. Let's see what that does. How about overlay? Nope, now you can't see it. That's kind of interesting though. Let's go to difference. Alright, and then right about there. Alright, let's see if we can add some. Can we add effects to this? Yes, we can. Actually, let's do this. We will paste layer style. Remember this? Alright. And now we can change this, or I can change this. I don't know why I keep referring to myself in plural, because I'm only one person. Is it gonna work? Is it okay, do you wanna work? Okay. Alright, did that update? Probably not. Oh, it did. Alright, let's try this as normal and see how that looks. So then we have pastel, but I could probably add some graphics to her. So she gets writing credit. I'm gonna give her writing credit here. So these are a lot of motion graphics, okay? This is motion graphics and effects animation. It's very simple and basic. Am I still live? Yes, I am. Oh, oops. Yeah, they are. There are red tuxedos. There are. There are red tuxedos. There are white tuxedos. What? You're lying. I probably have to adjust that. I don't like that. I'm gonna fix that. Nope, there's no underline for that, I guess. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Let's do an effects render. I think I need a little thing here. Alright, let me just see that played back again. Okay, so I'm going to do, actually let me just tweet this out. Alright, so I'm going to make a little thing here. Alright, I'm going to bring in this graphic. Um, Alright, so here's something they don't really teach in regular film schools or video production, I know, because I've done both. But they do teach it in animation class, and I believe it should still be taught. So I need to actually bring up my timer. Siri, show me my stopwatch. Alright, so I'm going to read this out loud twice, and that will tell me how long I'm supposed to have this on the screen. Alright, and go. The goal of making this film was to learn animation software, prove to ourselves we could make an animated film. It was not intended to be perfect animation. The goal of making this film was to learn animation software, prove to ourselves we could make an animated film. It was not intended to be perfect animation. That's about, see here it's like 23 seconds, but I stuttered. So I would say about 20 seconds, maybe 18. So you're supposed to leave it there for as long as it takes to read it out loud twice, because not everybody reads fast. When I watch YouTube videos, they'll put a whole bunch of text on there, and they do it on Snapchat as well. You can't read it in like a split second or 2 seconds. Like, come on. So, all right. So, duration, that says 4 seconds. So let's put this at, let's hope this works, 0, 0, and then this at, I'll put this at 18. I feel like 22 or 23 is a bit long. And that's it. That's it for that. Now let me zoom into here. Yeah, that's not good. Pupils? Oh my god. What are they talking about? I'm trying not to listen to them. Like, I'm trying not to be that kind of a mom. But like the things that are kind of being caught and catched in my ear, or caught in my ear, is kind of weird. So yeah, the goal of this film was to prove to ourselves that we could make a film, which should have been done a long time, which should have been finished a long time ago, but also to learn the software. And I went through two specific software. I learned a lot of different, I was playing with a few different software things. I even tried OpenTunes, which it was a lot of trouble just to install it and get it, and then it wasn't good at all. And I want nothing to do with that. As much as I like Studio Ghibli, I want nothing to do with OpenTunes. Anyway, there are some other ones that are decent. I have Krita. I actually haven't animated in Krita though. And then I had Animation Paper, which is actually decent, but I don't really use it. I just really like Toon Boom. I have Animate CC. Oh, no, I don't like it. She has used various programs, even though I told her not to, but she did it anyway. And they render out weird, so... You know what, now I'm gonna need some, like, audio to put in there. What else do I have? What is this one? Does this one fade out? I don't think so. Oh, it actually ends over here, does it? Alright, let's go to effects control. Did it fade out? It did. Let's just bring that over. Whoa. Wow, stop doing that. Stop doing that. I don't want that one. I want this one. Yeah, that's the one I want. Okay, let's pull this over here like that. Stop doing that. Seriously, stop it. Clicky, clicky. No, 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 no. Clicky there. Bring it over. All right. All right. What's this one? You know what? I might. Can I bring that? How long is that anyway? It's yeah. It's longer than I thought. All right. Let's fix that then. It's a Doombeck. I'm gonna move this over a bit. Actually, let's see how this sounds over here. Alright. I guess let's piece this together. And then I can do the scroll, like the credits. Alright. Alright. And that is that for right now. So I'm gonna go now, and all I need to do now is do like the text scroll or scrolling credits or whatever. And I had to actually type that up and everything. It's actually sunny outside. It's been a miserable day. I want to go outside and catch some Pokemon. So she's all chatty and everything, and I want to show it to her. And she doesn't really want her face on camera or whatever. So I'm respecting that. I'm gonna be a decent mom about it. So that's it for that. All right, bye.